Secretary of State, Trump tweeting, quote, "The thing I like best about Rex Tillerson is that he has vast experience at dealing successfully with all types of foreign governments." Here now is Nile Gardiner from the Heritage Foundation, a former special advisor to Margaret Thatcher. I mean, there are some people that are saying that Rex Tillerson has no diplomatic experience at all because he's been in the business world. There are other people who say that's exactly what he does in the business world, is go around to places all around the world, to different hotspots, and, you know, all different kinds of people with different personalities and a lot of bad guys, and he's forced to make deals with them because that's where the natural resources are. Which camp do you fall into?
Well, I have to say, firstly, that Mr. Tillerson certainly does have a great deal of experience on the international stage. He's been running a company which has about 70 to 80,000 employees, a huge brand name in terms of American business interests on the international stage. He's worked for decades with a wide range of international leaders. So he's certainly a figure, I think, of very significant weight. There's no doubt about that, although he doesn't have, of course, a political experience. But there's no reason why someone from a business background could not succeed, actually, as Secretary of State. And I think that the cabinet that's being assembled by Mr. Trump is a very unusual sort of cutting-edge cabinet, quite a radical cabinet in many ways. And so certainly Mr. Tillerson's nomination certainly is a very unusual pick, but certainly somebody with a business background brings with him, I think, a lot of skills, managerial skills, for example, that are necessary for this job.
A lot is being made of his relationship with Vladimir Putin. I mean, obviously, Russia has a ton of natural resources. That was a place that ExxonMobil certainly wanted to do business. So he would need to go in and go head-to-head with him and, not get steamrolled. Does that mean that he's friends with him in your mind? Is his relationship, I mean, does that complicate the relationship, or does it in some ways make it easier? What's your take?
Yeah, that's really the key question here. And as you say, Mr. Tillerson does have extensive experience of dealing with Vladimir Putin and the Russian regime as well. And he'll have to adapt, I think, his experience on that front into a new arena as Secretary of State. And as Secretary of State, his role is to advance the U.S. national interest on the international stage. It's very different, I think, when you're heading a major international company like ExxonMobil, for example. And I think that Mr. Tillerson is going to have to adopt a far, far tougher approach towards the Russians. And let's not forget that Vladimir Putin is a brutal, bullying thug.
Yeah.
And he has to be confronted, and he has to be stood up to, really. And I do hope the new Secretary of State is prepared to do that.
Meantime, I want to ask you about new tensions with Iran. Iranian President Hassan Rouhani ordering scientists to work on nuclear-powered marine vessels in response to what he called a U.S. violation of the nuclear deal. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I think that the Iranian regime is growing increasingly desperate. I mean, they do sense that the new U.S. administration will either tear up this deal, walk away from it, or completely change it. And I think there's a great deal of nervousness in Tehran here. And without a doubt, the Iranian regime has not been abiding by the terms of this agreement. They've been in violation of this agreement on numerous occasions. And I do hope that the next U.S. administration takes a far tougher line towards Tehran and really, ideally, walks away from what is a disastrous agreement for the United States.
Nile Gardiner, thanks for coming on. I appreciate your time.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Hiring a self-described hack to cover the White House. The New York Times signing